so much to do along the way as well, which also made a big difference. Like even in previous Zelda games, a lot of times there was criticism that it's like, oh, Hyrule Field is huge, but it's really empty.
But here, there is just stuff everywhere, whether it's crafting items or cooking items or bugs or weapons or a tiny little puzzle or a boulder you can push around. Okay, I accidentally crouched. I should probably not actually push the boulder down the mountain without a reason. But yeah, like again, just sort of in sort of terms of in-game ruins, I really have always been very impressed with how they integrate the clear signs of building into the landscape, and it looks really integrated. It doesn't look like two separate things. It looks like something that was there for so long that the earth has just filled in over it and the grass is going through it. That is something you'll see in real archaeological sites and something that is very difficult to do. Difficult to do well. I have a thing for games that do it, that manage to look like that. Hey, dude.
Mysterious old man.
Just an old fool.
So do you suppose Link had his hair tied up like that for 100 years?
I mean, that is what they showed.
Yeah, I've been playing Tears of the Kingdom where he does not have his hair tied up. In fact, you can find the hair tie as like a piece of headgear, but it's all it does is change the look. It's got like one defense and is not upgradable. It's just more of an Easter egg than anything else.
Oh yeah, Zelda is in ancient studies when we talk about it this way. But actually, I would say that I can't think of a Zelda game I've ever seen where you don't have some kind of ancient ruins or some historical thing to look back to. Even Skyward Sword, which is at the beginning of the timeline, looks back to an earlier time when there were these robots and gods.
There's an archaeologist. There's a Goron archaeologist.
He's my favorite. He's my buddy.
Well, in real life in ancient Egypt, there were ancient Egyptian archaeologists reconstructing the even ancienter Egypt. It's or today, like Harvard, they have they dig on Harvard Yard to find things that students left 300 years ago or whatever, and archaeology is all over the place.
Yeah, definitely. It's very much not a modern pastime, shall we say. And so it's kind of neat that it tracks all the way through the Zelda franchise.
Yep. Yeah, and so the Temple of Time over there is a recurring location in the series.
I kind of just want to say it's a secret, but it'll end the conversation.
Yep, fun little tutorial. But one of the things this game does that a lot of other games, including a lot of Zelda games, like you can just bypass that old man. You can just run past him. You don't have to actually interact. Whereas a lot of other games have very mandatory things. Like even Skyward Sword took a lot of criticism for that, for how you just had to do a lot of tutorial things, and yeah.
Yeah. Here, the only tutorial things that you have to do are you have to wait for the voice to tell you things, and you can't get off the plateau without help.
Yeah, you have to do the four shrines on the plateau in order to get off, and like they're speed runners, and the whole the speed running optimization is all about trying to get through those four shrines as fast as possible. Yeah, so Hestu, this is a fun thing, is that Hestu is actually named after chestnut. If you take chestnut, you just take the C and the T off the ends. That's Hestu. That's why he's named that.
Oh, it's like a cryptic clue.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me about Koroks, because I know you know a lot about Koroks.
Koroks were originally in Wind Waker, right? And they are, I believe it's said that they kind of evolved from the Kokiri, who were who were the people who raised Link in the Ocarina of Time. That's the one. And if I remember correctly, that the name Kokiri is actually like I believe the Japanese word for lumberjack is something like those syllables in a different order. And there were like these people in green in A Link to the Past who were the two lumberjacks, and it's like this weird thing where it's like they're kind of sort of referencing those guys.
Yeah. So here is one of those ancient pieces of tech that looks almost exactly like an upturned piece of Jomon pottery. Like if you go and search for Jomon pottery, it kind of looks just like the top, especially. So here we have the Temple of Time.
Yeah, there's like a whole timeline, which is very fun to speculate about, and like they try to explain how this is the same location in different games, and like in the Hyrule Storybook, I think they actually have a whole section where they try to show how the maps are, and it really only works like if north keeps changing.
That's kind of a fun idea, though.
Oh yeah, and like the Tears of the Kingdom, I have not done very much of the story. I've been just enjoying everything but the story, and like it's my understanding that they're almost like trying to defy you in putting it in a narrative, like a timeline, and so it's going to be fun trying to fit those things in. Yeah, so bokoblins, this is fun. Like they have like this whole nomenclature thing in Zelda, and like bokoblins aren't like the earliest of the Blinn type were the moblins that were in the first game, and the fun thing about that is that the name moblin is a portmanteau. The Japanese word for forest is moro, I think, and it's meant to be a combination of that word and the word goblin. So, it's like a forest goblin, Moro goblin, moblin. And then they just kind of took the Blinn suffix and applied to other things, just like what they do with like the Lizzle and the Stall and things like that. And the Fos, like there's Staphos and Lizophos and, yeah.
Yeah. The naming conventions for the monsters are pretty cute. And I also was just destroying some pots, a classic Zelda activity.
But you didn't get any money.
I didn't get any money. I got arrows, though.
Yeah, I remember when I first played this game, I had no idea if there was money in this game or not, because I think it might actually be impossible to get money before you leave the plateau. I think it's just something that's not available to you. So I did not know if there was money in the game or not until because there's no like healing hearts and things. Like you have to cook up all your stuff. So it's like what other conventions might they have abandoned? But no, they have money.
And so here we have the goddess Hylia, who has some pretty classic form.
Yep, she is not unlike the the giant statue that they have in Skyward Sword, or even in Zelda 2, the trophy, which is like a goddess statue, but they call it the trophy in the American translation. The actually looks very similar. Also, it's like this figure with with the hands closed and with wings in the back.
Which is, I mean, It kind of looks like a Western angel, and I've assumed that that's what they were kind of going for, and that's also probably why they didn't explicitly call it the goddess before.
And yeah, and they do in Zelda. They do try to be Western. This is trying to be a Western style fantasy in a lot of ways, and that even extends to like a lot like the names of the games themselves. Like the Breath of the Wild in Japanese, it is not the Japanese words for Breath of the Wild. It is literally like you know the English words transliterated because they're going for a Western style.
One thing I'm quite fond of in this game is they give you so many ways to interact with the world, so many ways to solve problems. Like I could just go wail on those bokoblins down there, or they've set up this nice boulder for me to make an explosion.
Yeah. Although one criticism of the game that I think is very fair is that this type of thing becomes less and less useful and less possible as the game goes on because the monsters get stronger. And so like the monsters you fight later on, that explosion would not have killed them.
That's definitely true. But the other thing is that I didn't have to interact with them at all. I could have just stealthed right on past them.
Oh yeah, that's a wonderful thing I love about this game that does so well is that yeah, so much is optional. Like yeah,
Like there's some bokos up there. Just gonna meander past them because I can go anywhere I want, anywhere I can see. There are edges of the world, but you have to go pretty far to find them. But also like you have that little noise meter down in the bottom, so like I could just like walk very quietly up to this butterfly and just pew. No bug net needed.
yeah, and it's like the climb anything game. Some people called it.
Yeah. Although I've also heard people say that Link in here is just a climbing addict and will not stop. So I could wander around the plateau forever, or I could show you more of the game.
Yeah, I mean the shrines and the powers and everything, they're so fun. And like they give you basically all the powers you're going to need right at the beginning, which is great. And like one of my absolute favorite games in the series is A Link Between Worlds on the 3DS, which was the game they made right before this. And in that one, they were experimenting also with you can basically rent all of the weapons and items at the beginning of the game, and then you can go into the different dungeons in different orders and everything. And so it was very much a test run to see how much they could do, and then they just went all in on it with this game, and it's wonderful.
Yeah. Like, you really can run around any part of this map that you want if you are sufficiently determined. Right from the beginning. Including the castle, which speedrunners do. But we're not going to do that. Just...
Yeah, but you do have to worry about falling damage, which often Zelda games don't do. Often it's like you fall really far and then you just like lose a heart and you're fine. So one fun thing, those are letters. Like there are two written languages in this game, and both of them are just ciphers for English. Like the letters are literally just map onto Roman characters, and they're in English. So you can translate any of the text just directly. Like in fact, where at the top where it says like there's L and R, I bet those are the words for left and right because there's 4 letters on left and 5 on right.
So we now have the map of that plateau, and the most unrealistic thing about this ancient Jomon tech, aside from it supposedly working 10,100 years in the future, Because, like, don't get me wrong, some things definitely remain, but, like, these complicated machines, probably not.
Like, for perspective, that's approximately twice as old as the pyramids, right?
Yeah.
Pyramids are about 5,000 years old, and they're, yeah, and so 10,000 is an absurd figure.
100 years, sure. MJ Faye says, I wonder what they base the look of the characters on and the aesthetic.
It is interesting because they have very much tried to stylize things like Skyward Sword, I believe, was meant to look like a watercolor painting. Like everything was meant to look watercolor.
For sure.
And like when they did like the Link's Awakening remake, they look like little plastic toys. It's amazing. And so yeah, they're very stylized, and they have this great cell shading here that just it is beautiful. Like I love the looks of all the characters.
Yeah, it's really gorgeous. So do you know if they had something they were basing it on? Other than the Jomon pottery aesthetic for the tech. Because, I mean, some of the things are pretty, pretty easy to see, like some of the armor sets and clothing. Like this is very, like, basic Western medieval peasant, like with the culottes and stuff, the high water pants.
Where did you get a quiver from?
Probably picked it up when I picked up the bow, right? Right? Maybe.
No, gotta watch out for falling damage now for the first time.
Yep. You can see the same so many OSHA violations, yeah. Somehow I don't think that OSHA would be very well respected in this world.
I love the paraglider. It's made of wooden cloth, and yet it does not burst into flames when you're near the volcano, like all your other wooden things.
Yeah. But, like, the old man, at least for now, has the same sort of, like, medieval peasant aesthetic. With the stitched together hood and the sort of the ragged, and, like, the very Western metal and glass lantern. Like, the lanterns you see in Japan are either made of paper or stone. So, like, they're really sticking with that aesthetic. But you also notice the little, like, golden triangle. Like, hint, hint. This guy's important somehow.
Well, just like in the very first game, you meet an old man who, tells you to do stuff. No. All he says is take this, but... Yeah, there's always recurring themes and recurring ideas in the series, and I've always loved that I have this idea that it is a legend, and so things get kind of retold and mixed around and stuff, and so it's like, how can Beetle be both here and also in like this great sea thousands of years ago? I don't know. It's like how can King Arthur be running around in like medieval armor when he's from like 400 AD? It's just legends. They get changed and retold over time.
Yeah, the old man is definitely not important. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so definitely there are these like fairy tale trope feeling things that are very characteristic of Zelda stories. And I really like that, like, the castle is the symbol of Hyrule, and the the pig, the boar, is the symbol of Ganon, even when it's very abstract.
Yeah, in the very first game, he was just like pig wizard, and they kind of explained in other games that it's like that's a form that he takes when he gets like the Triforce of Power. That's kind of like his animal form on the inside, much like how Link in A Link to the Past turns into a bunny, in a or in Twilight Princess he turns into a wolf. You know, Ganon turns into a big pig monster.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess Link is associated both with rabbits and with wolves in multiple settings. Um, but but yeah, they were just trying to warn us about the boars. You should just listen to Cody Johnston. Okay, where are we going? You mean the shrine? That is obviously a shrine.
Could be a hot dog stand, taco truck.
Tacos. Okay, so now we have our next sort of quest. Gotta investigate the shrine and bring the treasure back to the totally just a random dude old man. Just some guy, you know.
No, I don't know.
I love that even this early on you can be like, what the heck is that airplane bird thing? Is it Superman? I don't...
Oh yeah, the stamina gauge is something they introduced in Skyward Sword for like climbing and running, but it is so much more integral in this game, so much more central to your experience. It's wonderful. So yeah, there's like this way they kind of, built on what they did before. So this is fun. Like the names of these, like Oman Ao, the the producer of this game and several other Zelda games is Eiji Aonuma. And so, like Ionuma, Oman Ao, it's based on his name, and so a lot of these are just basically like kind of a lot of the names come from like effectively Easter eggs of like mixing up the syllables and like the names of people. And it's the only one I know, just because it's the first one and it's fun. But it's it's a thing they do.
Yeah. Yeah, the spin attack also very characteristic and very fun, and does appear in this game. But as you say, the slipping when it rains, like I've heard it said that the real enemy, the real big boss in this game is the rain. And I think the developers heard that too, because I have heard tell, minor spoiler alert, that in Tears of the Kingdom you can get armor that makes it so you don't slip.
Also also like elixirs and things. It's one of the status things you can or buffs you can get.
Okay, so we have our first shrine, and these places are kind of fascinating
Yeah,
because
and
you
like-
have this physical structure with this like pneumatic tube, but you also kind of get the sense that these spaces aren't real.
Yeah, but also like you can see there were letters all around like ringing
Oh, yeah.
that elevator. I don't remember what they say, but like all of these things they actually do say something that might literally say elevator.
Might. Oh, I was gonna say earlier that like the funniest thing about this tech is that it it extracts data and transfers it by what looks like a water droplet, which is, how would that ever? That just doesn't. It's very funny looking to me, but it's also like the sound of it is just incredible. Like the the aesthetic feel and the like the very strong orange versus blue thing here also, I think, just very well designed. Very good iconography. It's clear what's happening at basically all points. So this is use rune. The thing lights up when you hit it, and then I can move it around. Oh, the classic Zelda noise.
Yep. Dating back from the first game, that little "you discovered something" jingle.
Sploosh. And unlike some other games, Link can in fact swim, but not forever. It is a stamina gauge. Oh, I didn't realize you could see my friend notifications on here. Whoops. That's okay. So, why is this over here?
Yeah, I think part of it is just to show you that you can interact with something. And it's, it is an alternate way to do this, is pushing those with that, as opposed to just using the one that's already part of the wall. There are so many like alternate ways to do things. It's really, really nice. Yeah, and the like these robots with the legs and everything, they like they were initially the first enemies you meet in the first game are Octoroks, these like little octopus things that spit rocks at you, and like they were like that was part of the inspiration for having these things with these legs that run around, because they do have Octoroks, but they're different in this game.
You think the droplet gets bigger such that a terabyte would be like a waterfall? That sounds funny. I like it.
It's a torrent.
Wah, wah, wah. So, I remember that it took, it did take some actual thought to figure out the first time that I was doing this. These days, it is very obvious to me, but like it's so well designed to show you how to use the magnet. Like everything in here is built so that you will learn new tricks, like bringing stuff to you, moving stuff you've already done. I already have one of those, but that's okay. It'll break at some point. And then here is the thing that I just find amazing, is these guys, the monks, these are based on an actual self-mummifying technique that certain Buddhist monks have practiced. And usually that involves wrapping themselves very tightly.
I mean, they eat like pine needles and things, and like things that specifically do things to their body, and it takes years.
Yeah. So in theory, every single one of these guys is a self-mummified monk, and that is just a lot.
Yeah. They're also all different. Like the Koroks and these guys, they're all different. And the first four that you meet here have their hands in like a Triforce formation. The others will be different. But you see this guy has got it here, and I think like the next one will be like down here, over here.
Mm-hmm. Are they all different, or are there just a bunch of different types?
I think they're all different, because I think
really?
it's the same with the Koroks, where they just kind of have a different combination, and it's just one of those fun little like flexes, I guess you could say, that they do, where they're like, well, we can do this, so why not?
Yeah, I mean, we think of Egypt like we think of when we think of mummies, but they're very much not the only ones. Various types of preservation have always existed around the world, and various types of body disposal too, and body honoring. I'm just gonna randomly plug for Ask a Mortician YouTube channel and the Order of the Good Death, just because if you're interested at all in worldwide burial practices, it's a good source. Yes, they need to be rehydrated. It's true. I don't think they could be rehydrated. But
So he waited 10,000 years to say that.
and then poof.
Mm-hmm.
Next game, Link just gets thrown in peat to mummify in a bog. Yeah. Paraglider, please. And how do you know what a spirit orb is, huh?
I don't think Link could give it to him if he wanted to.
No, probably not.
Paraglider, please.
I love that you finally get to like make Link talk and he can just be so rude. It's so much fun.
The Sheikah, that name actually, I think it's like a deliberate I think it's meant to be the word seeker, and they like deliberately, they like deliberately made the sounds different so that it is a cool, like, unique thing. But I'm pretty sure that the name Sheikah is actually based on the word seeker in English.
That's very cool. And like I want to draw your attention to this design here, which is the Sheikah crest essentially. Which is, again, I mean, you can see the very curly Jomon patterns, but also it has this very central eye and then the 3 triangles on top, which I think are, meant to be the Triforce. So sort of they're watching to help with the Triforce and the legend when it comes up.
Yeah, they're often portrayed as like ninjas or like shadow people.
Yeah, which, again, they have some of that here too. And then at the bottom there's this little like tongue. Like I don't know if it's explicitly meant to be a tongue, but I've always thought it was, because you'll see this sometimes in Japanese like Oni statues, like Japanese demons often have their tongue out. And so it's sort of an intimidation thing. Apotropaic, one might say.
It's a good word. Ancient technology disappeared, except for it's all right here in front of you.
Are you an archaeologist, old man? Is that why you're so important? We're very important. That wasn't the deal. Rude. Give, please.
You don't need bombs and Cryonis. You can do the whole thing with magnesis, right?
Probably. That's one thing they really got right with this game.
The fast travel. And like basically you can effectively just go back to any place you've been. Although by my second time playing through this game, I deliberately did not fast travel, and it very much changes the experience. Like I used horses a lot more. I would often be like, well, I'm gonna go. It's like, well, if I want to go over there, it's like am I done all the stuff here? Because I'm not going to be back here for a while. It really changed the way I was very kind of deliberately moving through the world. And it was a great way of experiencing the game.
So first I'm going to grab some treasure.
Yeah, that's the chests with the EX, I think, are basically exist because we have the DLC.
But there we go. Remembering the controls. But yeah, imagine how much more dangerous it would be being an archaeologist in here with all these beasties and robots trying to kill you. It is definitely true, and actually there are some people we'll see along the way who get in trouble with that. But actually there's a lot of implication that you get attacked way more, sure, because you're Link. I mean, it's more than implication, really. Well, okay. Let's warp.
Oh, you have to run all the way down the tower?
Yeah, treasure is a very Youper way of saying it. I heard it a lot from some of my friends. Cons of being a protagonist.
How did he get up there so fast?
Did you fly? Yes.
Yeah, that's also it's so many great features, so many wonderful quality of life things.
Okay, so wrong button. So, oops. Wrong button. Gotta get used to playing the game again. Where
Yeah,
am I looking? There it is.
Yeah, and like this whole space is laid out just to help you get used to this, because just make it, you can just see them all, and so it's useful.
Oop. Nope. That's better. Where did that yellow pin wind up? Way the heck over here. No, thank you. Okay. So,
And actually, if you look at if you look through the scope at where you've got the pins,
you can still see them.
And there's text, and if I remember correctly, that text says something like "It's dangerous to go alone."
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, it's just an Easter egg, but there's text. There's all this text everywhere, and it's all just English with funny characters. In earlier games, they've had different versions of the written language, and some of them were were based on Japanese. Some of them were more syllables and actually using Japanese words as opposed to English. But in this one, they just went all in the English.
Yeah, I love how immersive this world is, like with the details of the wind direction and the grass moving blade by blade, and you have a sense of temperature and weather and time. I don't know. I just kind of enjoy running around this world in general.
Yeah.
But one thing I think is really interesting is that this huge plateau is ringed by a wall that is clearly of different construction than the Jomon technology. This is much more squared off, much more Western.
Yeah,
honestly,
it's more like the castle or like the Temple of Time that you
Right.
got there. It's the Western style architecture.
So while the ancient Sheikah might have been Jomon inspired, they're not the same as whoever made this plateau.
Yeah,
Which
and
is such a funny
yeah.
thing.
And like that's the thing you get in real world though. You like the things are very different, like essentially different stratas in your archaeological digs.
Yeah, and keep in mind that these things were meant to have been buried under the ground. I'm just gonna go ahead and not risk getting blown to bits.
Yeah, they introduce you to a guardian that it's stationary and everything, but it's this like fun little dangerous but still deal withable, I guess, challenge. They're so good at introducing things to you like before it's actually dangerous.
I also like the tips. I like this tip screen. I like the minimalism. If you try to play in master mode, it turns orange, and they clearly like don't have their Photoshop skills quite right. It's very funny.
Yeah, I felt like master mode was a letdown.
It was. It was. There's just everything has more health.
Yeah, everything has more health. Like everything's kind of bumped up a level in like you don't have red monsters. They like the lowest level's blue, and they regenerate their health, which was really the worst part because there's breakable because all the weapons are breakable, and so you end up just running through all your weapons in like any kind of encounter, and it doesn't work.
Yeah. Fun tip: do not try to fight a gold Lionel. It's just not worth it. Yeah, the Foley is very good.
Oh yeah, Nintendo has always excelled at like they write like little songs for everything. The Wii Shop channel is so, it's so nostalgic, and like they even have they had like the Nintendo Disk System. They had like a little jingle that would play when things were loading. They're always they put little songs in everything.
Yeah, notice the design here. Like, this is the way you're supposed to go to progress. But you can easily miss this, which is just a little chest.
It's also fun that they have different weapons because in most Zelda games it's just you got the Master Sword and in like what was it, Ocarina of Time, you had the big Goron sword or the big Goron sword, which was a claymore that you could use instead. But usually you're very limited in that. Whereas this, you've got one-handed swords and two-handed swords, and you got spears and like they're all different.
Yeah, you can really adapt to the to your own fighting style here. Oops.
Yeah, this whole thing, because in most Zelda games, the bombs they're limited, and farming bombs and bomb management is really important. Whereas in A Link Between Worlds, all your skills and all your things, your bow, your bombs, everything was on basically a refillable bar, like a little magic bar that would refill on its own. So you did effectively have infinite. It's just it might take a while to recharge.
They have something flying between two of these so you can see how they work before you have to use them. I love it. I love the design.
Yeah, I often think of games as being like what is the designer trying to tell me? Like I think of it as like a conversation with the designer or like a puzzle that the designers put together. And like it's in games like this, it's really so well done.
fly over here. We can just go. Yeah, you can see that he's holding his little triangle further down and to the side, just like you said. Aw, orange kitty. Purple Pens is saying that the Wii Shop channel song is just playing in her cat's didn't check, in their cat's head, and then the note that the cat's orange. Poor little orange kitty, being stereotypical. Yeah, I don't know that I'd call that cremation. There's no fire involved. That's
Sparkle motion.
Sparkle motion. Well, you cannot doubt their commitment to sparkle motion. 10,000 years is quite something.
Skeletons at night.
Skeletons at night. They're not so bright.
Although there's one thing which is fun is that you can pick up and use their arm as a weapon, and like if you have it on your back, it like still is just like wiggling around on your back. Like yeah, if you put it, yeah. I don't remember if these arms do, but I think the Lizalfos arms can actually be used as boomerangs. I think if you throw them, they come
Yeah,
back.
I
like
think
the
you're
boomerangs
right.
do.
Because they've got that little extra spur. Oh, just to show this temptation, you open that, you come out here. And this is how you get introduced to the Guardians.
Yeah, it's like, oh, one of these things you've assumed they're all dead, but nope, they're not. Yeah, there's this music. It's wonderful.
Yeah, they're so intimidating. I love it. I love the design. Oh. Also bats. Sorry, geese.
Yep, and Keith appeared in the very first game. And yeah, so one thing I haven't shown you because you haven't done much combat is like the flurry rush, and also how Link like gets like a bullet time thing if he when you're in the air if you pull out your bow you get this kind of bullet time where everything slows down. And I've heard, like, because all of the champions in the game have some special power, like Urbosa's lightning and things like that. And I've always thought that Link actually does have a champion power that is this kind of, like, time thing.
Yeah.
And interestingly, in the very first game, one of the drops that enemies would give were these, like, little, like, stopwatches that would freeze everything on the screen. So it's like, even there you got like, time, some kind of weird time power.
Must pick up everything. It's just all so lovingly constructed.
And you can do cooking.
house. Oh, he's sleeping.
Paraglider now.
Oak. Give, please. Give to me the glider.
You have to push the button again here.
Can't you tell when I'm sleeping?
Yep. Yeah, because when you go to a fire, you can like
I'm gonna steal all your food, old man, and read your diary. Sorry, you were saying?
oh yeah. The fire you can use to kind of change the time of day. You rest by the fire until like evening or morning or something. Trying to teach you about cooking, but I like how there's a couple of different ways through this, because you have to go through an area with where it's very cold and just damagingly cold, and you can cook up the peppers to make a thing which will keep you warm for a limited time, or you can get this guy to give you a coat.
Extra pepper. I don't really want to cook right now. Although, I kind of want to show off the cooking music because I think it's fun. Also, Link's cooking face is very funny. I guess let's cook it with a pepper. He's so excited!
Yep. Yeah, but when you eat that, you're resistant to cold damage for 8 minutes.
That's not bad.
Yeah. Yeah, you got the extra music on there, which indicated that you effectively got like critical hit on your cooking.
Chef Link, indeed. There's actually a video, of course it's a Brian David Gilbert video, of course, what else would it be, where a couple of people decide to cook every recipe in Breath of the Wild with real world ingredients and then try to eat them. It's a lot. You can get salt in this game. Making my own bridge. What do I want to hit them with? This is probably faster. Oops. Nota bene. Enemies can do the spin attack too. Link obtains olive oil. No, I don't think there's any olive oil in this game. Is there something worth dropping for a spear? Probably not. Oops, not that button. Still not that button. One of these days, I will remember how this darn thing works. Really do not need a rusty broadsword. It is gonna die real fast.
Yeah, you do tend to like spears, I remember.
I do. It's true. Acorns. Link eats a lunch of 30 to 40 olives, something he will surely not regret. I mean, Link can eat just about anything, is what we discover in this game. It's pretty funny, really.
Yeah, when you make a recipe that goes really bad, they call it dubious food, and it's like pixelated, like it's indecent to show. and
Link can still eat it and
Yep.
derive something from it.
Mm-hmm.
No olives? This is the worst Zelda time. I disagree, but that's okay. Oops. I forgot that jumping uses up so much stamina.
Yeah, it really does. In a lot of ways, you just have to be patient when you're climbing.
I've been watching somebody play Phoenix Rising, and the climbing there is kind of opposite, where you actually do much better if you jump all the time.
Yeah, Phoenix Rising has a lot of movement options, and it's a lot looser in a lot of ways.
Yeah. I mean, they clearly wanted to be Breath of the Wild, but with Greek hero.
Yeah, and with a lot of voice, like a lot of jokes, and like the narrators are really the stars.
But in doing so, I think they lost a lot of what makes a game like this good. But your mileage may vary. I am not a fighty person. In terms of what I actually enjoy about gameplay, very much exploration and puzzle, and like story. And if you are exploration and fight instead, Phoenix is pretty good. You played the Hades game? Yeah, Hades is an amazing game. I will never play it, but at some point I might cajole Dan into playing it.
Yeah, I mean, Hades won the first ever Hugo Award for video games, and it deserved it. The way Supergiant does story is, they weave it into the gameplay in this wonderful, wonderful way, and so they absolutely deserved it. It blends everything so well.
Yeah, it's such a good game. I have a YouTube channel, if you want to check it out. It's Zilla's Athenaeum, and I do actually have a video about Orphic mythology where I talk about how Hades uses mythology. And also, if you are a fan of this channel, you can check out our previous playthrough of Hades on this channel. With some really fun guests. I believe they got some of the Supergiant folks on to talk, which is super cool. Just very awesome. You can find all of the previous recordings on the Twitch channel, in our highlights, and also on our YouTube channel, which is Save Ancient Studies. So I think you said at one point, this is coming back to a completely different topic, but I think you said at some point that the sort of power part of the Triforce, the embodiment, tends to be Ganon when it's a pig form and Ganondorf when it's a human form.
Yeah, he starts off as Ganondorf, and then kind of eventually they just start calling him Ganon. And I like they call him the Calamity, and this Calamity Ganon. And I remember I liked that so much, and I looked up what the Japanese word is that they use, and the Japanese word they use could basically be translated as like natural disaster, or like act of God almost. Like it, and so Calamity is perfect for that.
Yeah. New rune? Stasis. I love it when you're just walking and the noise plays.
Yeah, I do feel like they kind of overuse it a bit, honestly.
It's got a little refill timer on it. Oops, wrong button. Sorry. Press A to stop time. Run, Link, run. Okay.
Well, you didn't have to make it all the way up.
I didn't. Ah.
Oh, there's a chest up there, though.
Okay. So let's stop time again.
Yep, just everything's optional.
Let's
It's great.
do the time warp. Oh, that's a much nicer shield.
Yeah, the way that the defense on shields works is really confusing. It doesn't just work the same way the armor. I couldn't tell you what it is, but there's the defense number on shields the math on it is very strange.
I do not need 2 axes, I suppose.
Well, it's a hammer. It's not an axe.
Yeah. And that's why I want it. Hammers are better.
Yeah. They're great for breaking rocks and stuff.
Saying the MJ Faye saying the mythology cycle of the gods feels almost like a roguelike. Yeah, I get that. That's cute. And like yeah, especially when you have the cycles of death and rebirth, which is a very common thing, especially in both Indo-European and Afro-Ugaritic and all of that jazz. So I like this. I was watching somebody play this part recently, and you know, the first thing you try is like, oh, can I smack it with the hammer? And it doesn't go anywhere. And then you're like, wait, what if I released all of the force of that at once? Kapow! As long as it doesn't roll back and hit me, it's all good.
Yeah, stasis is probably like my least used power, and then Cryonis is the one that I always forget about.
So I think I am going to try and run over to that last shrine before we end stream for today, just so you can see us get off the plateau. And that's probably where I'll call it, is after we land off of the plateau.
Yeah, and you see his hands are in like the upside down, like the negative space in between the 3 triangles.
Cute. So if I head for the last shrine, at some point I'm going to have to worry about the cold. I don't want to go and futz with finding what I need for the warm doublet.
Oh, in fact, there you are, cold now.
I don't think it'll be more than 8 minutes, do you?
Nope. And then when you're done with the shrine, you just fast travel out of there.
Yeah. There we go. Although maybe I should be wielding a less important weapon. And the music changes when you're cold, when you're in the cold areas, and like, oh, I like it so much.
Yeah, the music is really minimalist, which was also, it's a criticism some people had. I liked it, but like a lot of times, like Zelda is famous for this music that's constantly playing. But in a way, it would have gotten tiresome in this one.
It's so big, and there is always, well, almost always, some amount of music.
Yeah,
it's just very sparse.
And very situational. Because a lot of times it's almost more of a warning of something. Oh, something's seen me. I know because there's tense music.
See, I could go fight that guy, but why would I? You mentioned before that, like, the this ain't no Cadence of Hyrule. True facts. Although, another very fun game. I am a big fan of rhythm games.
Yeah, Cadence of Hyrule is fun. Non-canon, but I don't care.
Oops.
Ugh, falling damage.
That was foolish of me. Oh well. Yeah.
I love shield surfing. It is, yeah. I ruined so many shields.
This is the most ridiculous thing. The combination of buttons you have to pull off to do this is very silly, but once you learn how, it's like, oh my gosh, I can do what? Oh, no snowballs, please.
I like how the bokoblins, they have their own little life. Like if you don't
Oops.
interact, like if you don't like I just use this sword. Anyway, but yeah, if like oh,
Oops.
you should have eaten an apple.
Should have eaten an apple. Oopsies.
But yeah, they have their own little thing where they talk, like they like they're clearly like having a little party. Mm-hmm. They have their own little lives. There's like a funny YouTube video where somebody acts like it's a nature documentary and gets like those masks that Kilton has, and it's like, oh, and look at the society, and they've accepted me as one of their own.
Not deal with the bokoblins, huh? Let's go climbing instead. Yeah, I especially like watching the Lizzles, the Lizalfos, because they have like fish on spears, and you can actually like take both the fish and the spears, and it's just cute.
Yeah, and these are basically all the powers you're gonna get. Like they have champion powers, but yeah, like Rivali's Gale is just the best one. I love that one, but yeah, like these are just everything you need.
And like, I love the fact that it shows you how gaining power works through the rest of the game just by doing this little area that you can run around in any way you want. Okay, so oh, one of the reasons why I think that these places aren't actually real is because Link can't climb.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a thing. Oh, I missed. Oh, rude. That's not the button I want at all.
Serpentine pattern. Yeah, so like the little robots you meet in the shrines, though, they're not corrupted by Ganon. They're meant to test you, right?
Yeah, and that's why they have they don't have that creepy dark pink thing going on. I love that that's the color of like necromancy in Zelda is like this weird
there's
dark
a chest
pink.
there if you wanted to look.
There is a chest there. I hadn't even noticed.
Yeah, it in like a lot of the Zelda series, there is often this weird idea of like, where did the monsters actually come from? Like in the very first game, you're collecting these pieces of the Triforce that Zelda hid, and so does that mean the monsters that you're fighting to get them are working for her and they're defending the things from Ganon's minions or what? And then in Zelda 2, you're fighting, you're going through these challenges that were like set up by a king of Hyrule hundreds of years ago. And so it's like, once again, these are not necessarily evil monsters. They're there to challenge you.
Whereas the monsters out in the world here actually have a specific explanation, which is Calamity Ganon.
Yeah, and like so, like the Blood Moon brings them back to life and everything, as they are kind of made of him.
Mm-hmm. And the last part of the Triforce. It's on the other side on the bottom. Yeah, I do like also when you're looking at these 10,000-year-old preserved monks, you can see all of their jewelry is made of gold, which doesn't decay.
Yeah, it doesn't tarnish.
Doesn't tarnish, doesn't rust. But their hats, which are made of straw and cloth, are clearly, even with whatever that square that preserved them was, are starting to decay, but all of the jewelry is still very solid. Well, that's pretty true to how things work, although, again, 10,000 years is just a ridiculously long time.
Yeah, I think that they intended it to be, it's so far in the future that the other games don't matter in the timeline. It just, yeah, it's the end of history, or it's so far. But it really, 10,000 feels so over the top.
Although you do find hints around of the other games having happened.
Well, there's lots of Easter eggs. Yeah, like there's this area where it's clearly named after Holodrum and Labrina from Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons, and things like that. And like Eventide Isle has names that are reminiscent of Link's Awakening.
Yeah, and I really do think you can. There's a place in here where you can see where Skyloft came down.
Yeah, the Forgotten Temple, I think it might be called, but it's clearly meant to be Skyloft. And in fact, some of the archaeological features, or some of like the stuff that is in around like some of the like where you there's the springs, I think it is, like where like those a lot of the things that are around them are meant to be reminiscent of the springs that you saw in Skyward Sword also. You're kind of implying it's the same place thousands of years later.
No, not into the tree, Link.
Yeah, it's terrible for the shield. It makes it break, but it's great.
It's very silly. So yes, I skipped this part, but yes, if you draw an X on the map with the 4 shrines as the points, you do in fact get the Temple of Time Shock Surprise. You'll also have seen when the old man started to disappear, there were these like little fires in the air. That is a traditional Japanese sign of a ghost, is fire floating in the air.
Yeah, like a will-o-wisp almost. It's you'll see. It's one of those things where once you know about it, you'll see it in a lot of games.
And so, like, they have the shining light on the statue to let you know you can actually do something by praying to Hylia at her statues. I would like a heart container, please.
Yeah, it's like, I want to live. Yeah, but again, you have this like choice of how you develop.
And it's funny, because they call it a heart container, even though that doesn't make a ton of sense in this context.
Yeah, because you don't find hearts and that you're saving up.
But like in other games, you get like pieces of heart, and 4 of them add up to make a new heart.
Yeah, or you can find little hearts on the ground, which will help restore your health.
Yeah, you see those little blue flames.
Yeah, I forgot what the name for that is, but yeah, it's a very much a thing.
Yeah. So you want to get up on top of this, and you could just climb any piece of the temple that would get you up there, or you could find the handy ladder. And then just try not to fall down and die. Hello, ghost. Give me my paraglider. Gimme.
Well done there, young one.
Voice acting.
Yeah, that's the first. They didn't have any voice acting in earlier games.
I was king of Rome, Nostradamus,
Those are some familiar names, too.
the last leader of Hyrule. A kingdom which no longer exists.
Yeah, and so like one thing which is fun is that like the kings often look very similar. Like
The great calamity was merciless.
like in fact, even in the manual for Zelda 2, when they show the king, he looks very similar to this.
It was then that my life was
Yeah. So, again, just to point out, we were talking about the style of the characters. He's got curly hair and like a lot of facial hair, and these robes are very much in a Western style crown. Like, he's not in like shogun armor or anything that you might expect for a very Japanese centric game.
One must know the story from an age-long past. The Demon King was born into this kingdom, but his transformation into madness created the horror you see now. Stories of Ganon were passed from generation to generation.
It's funny because this is if you play the Wii U version, this like image is like the loading screen, and so you see it a lot more than you do if you play the Switch version.
You can see it's on some kind of woven cloth, but it's done with dye, not with tapestry weaving. Or it could, I guess, be papyrus, like a woven reed paper, but looks like cloth to me with the way the spacing is.
These relics, the divine beasts, were giant.
Archaeology, friends!
We also found the Guardians, an army of mechanical soldiers.
Killer robots for the dawn of time.
This coincided with ancient legends, oft repeated throughout our land.
Yeah, so this looks to me like an actually Eastern technique of fabric dyeing, where you paint on the fabric and then push it through the dye. So it's an interesting mix.
Set to inherit a sacred power, and a skilled knight at her side. It was clear that we must follow.
And I found Zelda's story in this to be very relatable. It is, yeah. Like I found her characterization to be wonderful.
This is by far my favorite Zelda. Just like scholarly pride.
The princess, her appointed knight, and the rest of the champions were on the brink of sealing away Ganon.
Yeah, I guess it. Yeah, he says it's a kingdom that no longer exists because he was the last king, and so Zelda is technically the ruler, meaning it's a princessdom, right?
I think queendom, right? Because she inherited.
Well, she still calls herself a princess.
It's
though.
true. She does.
Just like all those Disney princesses, you cannot upgrade them to queen. That'll make them lose their appeal.
We have heard from deep below Hyrule Castle. Seized control of the Guardian.
Although, to be fair, the things that Rome probably thinks of as Hyrule also no longer exist. Like, there are human settlements, but they're not... Like, these towns, the castle town got destroyed.
Yeah, it's clear that Castletown was very populated and very built up.
And there's just a whole devastated area in central Hyrule.
Yeah, and like this backstory is horrific. Like just like imagining it's like the champions are just murdered within their robots, and it's it is all like just this nightmare scenario for these people.
And that, I think, is another sort of historical lesson that I like to take away from things like this in the real world of, like, calamity happens, but life goes on. It won't ever be the same as it was. But it'll be there.
Yeah, sometimes you have a Bronze Age collapse. You got to watch out for those sea people, but You've also got a video about that.
I do.
It's quite good.
Highly recommend Eric Klein's book, 1177 BC. Very thorough.
Yeah, and he did. He read on.
He actually read his own quote from my video. He's very nice.
In Hyrule Castle, she calls out for your help. However, my daughter's power will soon be exhausted. Once that happens, Ganon will freely regenerate himself.
Yep.
And nothing will stop
Yeah, she's gonna run out of power any time now. So go run around and like tame horses and find 120 shrines.
And 900 Koroks. You know what you get for finding 900 Koroks? A golden poop emoji.
my daughter. Do whatever it takes to annihilate Ganon. Somehow, Ganon has maintained control over all 4 divine beasts, as well as those guardians swarming around Hyrule Castle. I believe it would be quite reckless for you to head directly to the castle at this point.
So you can.
Yeah, it's. I love how open it is because, like the games had been getting more and more linear, and Skyward Sword felt really restrictive, and to just have it opened up like this was just everything I wanted.
For the precise location of Kakariko Village.
And like I said, they played with that in Link Between Worlds, which I feel like is kind of a forgotten game, but it is very much this like missing. I don't want to say missing link because that's but it is this midpoint between
Yes, paraglider.
Yeah, between Skyward Sword and this one. Yeah, and when I first played this game, they're like, okay, go to this place. I'm going to mark it on the map. And I was like, don't tell me what to do. And I went the exact opposite way and had like, magic horse adventures and stuff. And I actually beat all 4 divine beasts before going to see Impa. And she's like, oh, you must do this thing. Oh, you've already done it. But doing it that way also, I missed out on a lot of like stuff you do in towns and things because I was trying to avoid civilization. And so like I did not get a sneaky suit. Like Julie's favorite armor is the sneaky suit you can buy in Kakariko Village, and I did not go to Kakariko Village.
Okay, so I'm going to paraglide down out of the plateau, and then we're going to end stream. So, final thoughts?
It is it is a masterful game. It is so good. And Tears of the Kingdom is also very good. I'm playing through that, and I don't want to really compare them until it's difficult. They're very similar, but also just everything I want.
The ghost conned you. Scammed. Bamboozled. I don't feel bamboozled. I think we got a paraglider, and now we can glide around wherever.
Yeah, the paraglider is such a good addition. I remember with Dragon Quest Builders 2 effectively added a paraglider, and that also helped a lot.
And now
It's
we
fun.
can go anywhere at all,
Yes.
including Death Mountain.
Anywhere the sun touches is your kingdom.
As long as we don't get eaten by skeletons. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. This has been a great deal of fun. I will be playing Breath of the Wild for every Friday for the rest of the month and taking a 1-week break. And then in July, I'm going to be playing Tears of the Kingdom. So stop on by. It's really great to have you. See you next time.